The craving for variety isn't about dissatisfaction. It's about adventure, surprise, and the thrill of something different. When people hear the word variety in intimacy, they often confuse it with being unsatisfied or unhappy with their partner, but that is not what this means. Men who secretly want to try new positions aren't asking for something to replace the connection they already have. They're asking for something to enhance it. Think of it like adding spice to a dish you already love. It's not about throwing the meal away, it's about making it taste even better. Human nature leans toward curiosity, toward wanting to experience new sensations and new feelings, and intimacy is no exception. When we step into the same routine over and over again, even if it feels safe, we run the risk of losing the spark that makes closeness exciting. Men crave variety not because they doubt their partner, but because they desire to deepen the connection in a way that feels fresh, playful, and alive. Now, here's where the misunderstanding often begins. Women may think that if a man craves something different, it means what they already do isn't enough, but that's not the case. The truth is, most men don't even say these thoughts out loud, not because they don't want to, but because they don't want their partner to misinterpret it as criticism. It's easier to keep it in the imagination than to risk making someone they love feel insecure or unappreciated. This silence, however, doesn't erase the desire, it just pushes it further into the background where it remains a quiet longing. That longing isn't about comparison or looking elsewhere, it's about wishing for a safe space where exploration feels welcomed. When variety is introduced, it doesn't replace the comfort of routine, it elevates it into something new and memorable. The thrill lies in the unexpected, in shifting out of autopilot and into a place of curiosity. If you think about the strongest connections you've had, they usually include some element of surprise. It could be as simple as a partner doing something thoughtful without being asked, or as big as an adventure you never planned for. But the common thread is always that spark of newness. That is exactly how variety works in intimacy. It's that moment where someone thinks, I didn't see that coming, and it leaves an imprint far deeper than repetition ever could. Men crave that spark, not because they're tired of what they already have, but because they want to feel that their relationship is still alive, still evolving, still capable of surprising them. When everything is predictable, even love can feel routine, but when you step outside of that, the excitement floods back in instantly. That's the difference between going through the motions and creating moments worth remembering. It's important to understand that variety doesn't require anything extreme or uncomfortable. It can start with small changes that carry big impact. Trying a position that shifts perspective, changing the pace, or simply altering who leads can make the experience feel brand new. Men secretly crave these shifts because they bring them out of the role they're used to playing and let them experience intimacy in a way that's not always about control, but about connection. This is where adventure enters the relationship, not through outside distractions, but through each other. It becomes a reminder that love is not static. It is something that grows and expands when both partners are willing to explore it. That exploration is what makes two people not just lovers, but adventurers together in the most personal way possible. Think of it like taking a different route to the same destination. You know where you're going, you know you'll arrive together, but the journey feels brand new because the scenery changes. That's what men long for when they imagine variety in intimacy, a different path to the same closeness, one that excites them and reminds them why the journey matters. Routine is comforting, but newness is energizing. And when both combine, you get the balance of security and excitement that keeps a relationship alive. That balance is what turns a moment into a memory, one that lingers and strengthens the bond even more. Without variety, things risk becoming mechanical. With variety, they become magnetic. There's also the confidence factor that variety unlocks. When a woman initiates something new, the signal it sends is powerful. It says she is not only comfortable, but also willing to create adventure in the relationship. Men crave that because it makes them feel chosen in a fresh way, like the spark they had in the beginning has been reignited. It's not about perfection, it's about effort. the willingness to step into something different just to see how it feels. That kind of effort builds an emotional connection just as much as a physical one because it shows intentionality. It says, I'm not here to just repeat, I'm here to grow this with you. That message carries weight, and it is why men secretly long for variety even if they never voice it. When you break it down, the craving for variety is not a rejection of what already exists. It's an invitation to make it even better. It's a desire to be surprised, to feel a spark that makes the heart race and the mind engaged. It's a reminder that intimacy is not about repetition, but about evolution, about allowing the relationship to expand in ways that bring laughter, playfulness, and deeper closeness. For men, variety doesn't mean dissatisfaction, it means adventure. And adventure is what keeps love vibrant, powerful, and unforgettable. Confidence in trying new positions can change the way both partners feel about intimacy, giving men the sense of being desired and women the power of leading. Confidence is not about having all the answers or knowing exactly what to do. It is about stepping forward with the belief that your presence and your effort are enough. When a woman takes initiative in intimacy, the atmosphere shifts immediately because it communicates certainty, playfulness, and a willingness to explore. Men crave this because it takes away the weight of always having to be the one who decides, who directs, or who leads. In those moments, he feels chosen in a new way, not just loved, but actively wanted, and that can transform how he sees himself in the relationship. Confidence adds fuel to the spark because it signals that intimacy isn't just happening out of habit, it's happening out of genuine desire. The most overlooked part of intimacy is that both people want to feel desired, not just loved, and confidence is the vehicle that carries that message clearly. A man may never say it, but when his partner confidently introduces something new, he reads it as her saying, I want you, and I want to share this experience with you. That is far more powerful than any words because action speaks louder than explanation. It's easy to assume that taking initiative has to mean bold, dramatic moves, but in reality, it can be as simple as changing who takes the first step or who sets the pace. The confidence behind that choice creates the impact, not the scale of the act itself. When confidence enters the room, doubt leaves, and that opens the door for both partners to enjoy the moment without overthinking. That clarity is what makes intimacy feel effortless and unforgettable. Many times, women hesitate to try new positions out of fear of doing it wrong, of being judged, or of looking awkward. But the truth is, men don't see those fears the same way. What he notices is the effort, the energy, and the courage it takes to try something new, and that alone feels magnetic. Confidence doesn't mean flawless, it means daring enough to try, and that willingness is what leaves an impression. Men secretly crave that because it reassures them that their partner isn't just along for the ride. She's an active part of creating the journey. That dynamic changes everything because it transforms intimacy from something predictable into something shared, where both sides contribute equally. The confidence to try new positions is really the confidence to shape the experience together. There's a psychological shift that happens when confidence is present in intimacy. For men, it relieves the pressure of always having to be the one in control, and for women, it unlocks a sense of empowerment that says, I can create pleasure, I can guide, I can lead. That balance removes the idea that intimacy has to follow one script and instead creates space for freedom. Confidence in this space isn't just attractive, it's liberating because it allows both partners to show up as themselves without the mask of perfection. When a woman owns her role with confidence, it's not just her body that draws her partner closer, it's her energy, her assurance, and her willingness to explore. That is what men quietly long for, the chance to experience that confidence directed at them. Think about the way energy changes in any situation when someone walks in with certainty. It could be in a meeting, a conversation, or even in how someone carries themselves. Confidence shifts the atmosphere instantly. The same thing applies here. When intimacy is approached with hesitation, it feels cautious, but when it's approached with confidence, it feels electric. Men crave that electricity because it breaks away from monotony and ignites something that feels rare and alive. Even if the position itself is not entirely new, the confidence behind it transforms the experience into something different. That's why the act matters less than the attitude, because confidence has the power to turn ordinary into extraordinary without changing much at all. Confidence also carries a message of trust. When a woman confidently tries something new, it shows that she trusts her partner enough to experiment, to take risks, and to be vulnerable without fear of rejection. That trust deepens the bond because it says, this is a space where both of us can be free, where nothing has to be perfect, and where effort is always celebrated. Men secretly beg for this because it gives them a sense of freedom, too, permission to relax, to let go of control, and to simply enjoy. The confidence of one partner invites the confidence of the other, and together it builds a rhythm that feels natural and exciting. That rhythm is what intimacy is supposed to be, not a performance, but a connection created moment by moment. When confidence is present in intimacy, everything changes. It's not about chasing perfection or mastering techniques. It's about showing up with boldness, curiosity, and the belief that the moment itself is enough. Men crave new positions, not just for the physical aspect, but for the surge of energy that comes when their partner confidently takes the lead. It's that confidence that makes the experience feel intentional, alive, and unforgettable because it speaks louder than words ever could. These positions often put men in a place of vulnerability or intensity they rarely experience, making the moment more powerful. In most traditional settings of intimacy, men are expected to lead, to guide, to be in control, and while that role can be exciting, it can also become limiting. The truth is, men don't often get the chance to step into a space where they can feel fully vulnerable, where they can surrender control and experience something that is both overwhelming and freeing. New positions can create that shift, allowing them to feel a depth of intensity that is rarely touched in their usual role. Vulnerability in this sense is not weakness, it is trust. It is the willingness to let go and experience connection in a different form. That is why men secretly long for these moments, because they open a door to an intensity that routine cannot replicate. When a man is placed in a position that flips the usual dynamic, the emotional impact is just as strong as the physical one. Suddenly, he is not the one in control, but the one being guided, and that reversal of roles creates a rush of feelings that are hard to describe. It's an invitation to feel desired, to feel pursued, and to feel that his partner is just as invested in creating the experience as he is. That intensity is not just about the physical movement, it is about what it represents. A safe space where he doesn't have to perform or direct, but can simply be. This change can be surprisingly powerful because it taps into a side of him that rarely gets expressed. Men may not put this into words, but what they want is the chance to step into that vulnerability without judgment, to feel safe enough to explore it. These positions create intensity because they break away from predictability. When the body moves differently, the mind follows, and suddenly the experience feels new, almost like stepping into uncharted territory. That is what amplifies the power of the moment, because both partners are exploring together rather than following a script. For men, this shift creates an internal spark, a reminder that intimacy can be adventurous and raw at the same time. It's not about replacing the comfort of routine, but about balancing it with moments of surprise that make the connection deeper. Intensity comes when comfort and risk collide, and that is why new positions carry so much weight. They become more than physical shifts, they become emotional revelations. Vulnerability also changes the way a man sees his partner. When she introduces something new that requires him to let go, it communicates trust, leadership, and confidence, all qualities that men find magnetic. It allows him to admire her not only for the closeness she brings, but for the courage she displays. In that moment, she is not just a participant, but a guide, and that dynamic makes the experience unforgettable. It teaches him that intimacy is not a performance with one leader and one follower, but a shared dance where both have equal power to shape the outcome. That awareness strengthens his respect for her and deepens the emotional bond in ways that physical closeness alone cannot achieve. Vulnerability becomes a bridge to admiration, and intensity becomes the memory that lingers. There's also something profoundly freeing about not always having to hold the reins. Men spend much of their lives being told to stay in control, to handle situations, to lead without showing weakness, and that expectation doesn't stop at the bedroom door. New positions, especially those that shift control, give men a chance to step out of that pressure and simply experience. The intensity they feel is magnified because it contrasts with what they normally carry, and that contrast makes the moment stand out. It feels like release, like letting go of the armor they usually wear, and that is why the vulnerability becomes so powerful. It's not about giving up strength, it's about finally being free to just feel. The positions that bring vulnerability often bring closeness that words can't reach. When a man feels that level of trust, he is more open emotionally, more connected, and more willing to show sides of himself that usually remain hidden. That depth cannot be reached when everything stays predictable, because predictability rarely requires trust. But when something new is introduced and he steps into it willingly, the trust builds naturally, creating a foundation that strengthens the bond. This is why men crave those moments quietly, because they want to experience not just pleasure, but connection on a level that feels raw and real. Vulnerability becomes the pathway, and intensity becomes the proof that it matters. The most unforgettable experiences are the ones that break the mold, the ones that pull us out of our usual roles and show us something new about ourselves. For men, trying new positions that bring vulnerability or intensity creates exactly that kind of moment. It's not about chasing novelty for the sake of it. It's about opening up a part of themselves that rarely gets touched. That shift becomes more than physical. It becomes emotional, mental, and deeply personal. It's the combination of being challenged, being surprised, and being safe all at once that makes the experience so powerful. That is why men beg for these positions silently, because they don't just want the act, they want the feeling that comes with it, a feeling of freedom, closeness, and intensity that stays long after the moment is over. What men secretly hope for is not just physical, it's the emotional spark that comes from their partner taking initiative. Intimacy is not only about bodies moving together, it's about energy, intent, and the messages that actions communicate without a single word being spoken. When a woman takes the lead, the message that flows through is one of desire, one that says, "You are wanted, you are chosen, and this moment is something I am excited to create with you." That spark is more valuable than the physical act itself because it lights up a part of the relationship that often goes quiet. Men crave the feeling of being pursued just as much as women do, but they rarely experience it in a way that feels intentional. When that shift happens, when their partner makes the move with confidence and excitement, it awakens an emotional response that is just as powerful as the physical one. Taking initiative breaks the silent assumption that intimacy must always begin the same way, with the same signals and the same routine. It injects surprise into the experience, and surprise is what ignites the emotional spark. That spark is not about being shocked, but about being reminded that love is alive, that desire is alive, and that closeness is not just a habit, but a choice. Men long for that kind of reassurance, not in words, but in actions that prove they are more than just a role to play. They are a partner who is wanted deeply. The act of taking initiative creates an emotional current that runs beneath the physical surface, giving depth to what otherwise might just feel mechanical. It's in that current that the real connection grows, the kind that strengthens a bond far beyond the moment itself. There is a difference between routine intimacy and intimacy sparked by initiative. Routine may bring comfort, but initiative brings passion, and passion is what makes moments stand out. When a woman makes the choice to introduce something new or to guide the direction, it shows creativity, effort, and investment in keeping the connection alive. Men interpret that effort as care, as a sign that their partner values not just being together, but making the experience meaningful. That creates an emotional response that lingers because feeling chosen is not something men take lightly. It reshapes the way he thinks about intimacy and about his partner because it reflects a willingness to keep the fire burning rather than letting it settle into embers. The emotional spark also taps into a man's deeper needs for affirmation. While men may not always express it, they want to feel like their partner still sees them as exciting, as attractive, as worth pursuing. When initiative is taken, it speaks directly to that unspoken need, validating it without requiring a conversation. That validation builds confidence, not just in the moment, but in the relationship as a whole. It tells him that he doesn't always have to carry the responsibility of keeping things alive, that his partner is just as invested in building and maintaining the spark. That balance creates harmony, making intimacy feel like a shared creation rather than a one-sided performance. It is easy to underestimate how powerful initiative can be until it happens. The atmosphere changes, the energy shifts, and suddenly what might have been ordinary feels extraordinary. That emotional spark is not measured by how complex the act is, but by the intent behind it. A small gesture delivered with confidence and desire can create a rush of feelings far greater than any elaborate plan. Men crave this because it feels authentic. It feels like their partner is fully present and fully engaged. Presence is what turns intimacy into connection, and initiative is the proof of that presence. It says this moment matters, this connection matters, and you matter. Taking initiative is also about breaking patterns. In life, we fall into rhythms because they are easy, they are predictable, and they require less thought. But when someone breaks the rhythm with purpose, it immediately grabs attention and creates excitement. That's what happens in intimacy when initiative is taken. It breaks the expected rhythm and replaces it with anticipation. Men respond to that with energy because it feels alive, it feels new, and it reminds them that love is not a cycle to repeat, but an adventure to keep discovering. That discovery keeps the relationship from becoming stagnant and keeps both partners emotionally engaged. At its core, what men want is not just variety in movement, but depth in meaning. They want to know that their partner is not just participating, but actively choosing them in a way that sparks emotion as much as desire. That is why initiative carries so much power, because it blends the physical with the emotional in a way that creates something unforgettable. Men may not always have the words for it, but they feel the difference when it happens, and that difference is what leaves them quietly longing for more moments just like it. Breaking routine with these moves creates deeper trust, stronger chemistry, and a memory that sticks long after the moment ends. Routine in relationships can feel safe, but it can also become predictable, and predictability over time can dull excitement. When two people step outside of that pattern and experiment with something new, they build a different kind of trust. The kind that says, I feel safe enough with you to try, to explore, to risk being a little uncomfortable for the sake of growing together. That act of stepping into new territory creates chemistry because it sparks curiosity. It makes both partners pay attention again. Chemistry thrives on energy, and energy comes from moments that feel different from the norm. That difference is what creates the memory, one that doesn't fade into the background of routine, but stands out as a defining experience. Trust grows in these moments because trying something new requires vulnerability from both sides. It's not just about the position, it's about the agreement to enter into something unfamiliar and to rely on each other to make it meaningful. That kind of trust is deeper than words because it's built on action, on showing rather than telling. When a man sees his partner willing to take that leap, it reassures him that she is not just present, but invested in the connection. That reassurance strengthens his confidence in her and his confidence in the relationship. The cycle continues when he responds with openness, meeting her effort with effort of his own, and together they weave a stronger bond. Each new attempt at breaking routine becomes another thread tying them closer together. Chemistry is the spark that keeps relationships alive, and it cannot thrive on repetition alone. It needs surprise, it needs variation, it needs moments that remind both partners why they were drawn to each other in the first place. Breaking routine with new moves reignites that chemistry because it brings back the sense of discovery that existed at the start. Suddenly, the person you know so well shows you a side you haven't seen, and that revelation feels exciting. Men crave this because it proves that love is not static, that their partner still has the ability to surprise and ignite their desire in unexpected ways. That surprise fuels the chemistry and keeps it from fading under the weight of familiarity. Memories that last are the ones tied to emotion, to experiences that stir something deeper than just the physical. Breaking routine creates those memories because it anchors them in novelty and vulnerability. A new move is not just something done in the moment, it becomes a story in the mind, something that stands apart from all the others. That story carries emotion with it, the emotion of being chosen, of being surprised, of feeling something that couldn't be created by repetition alone. Those are the memories men hold onto and think about later, not because the act itself was unusual, but because the feeling behind it was powerful. Feelings create memories, and breaking routine is one of the fastest ways to create new ones. The willingness to break routine also shows intentionality, and intentionality is what keeps love strong. It says, I didn't just show up, I made the choice to bring something new, something exciting, something different into our space. That choice communicates care and effort, qualities that are as attractive as physical intimacy itself. Men notice that effort because it reflects a shared responsibility in keeping the relationship alive. It's no longer one person driving the connection forward, it's both choosing to create together. That partnership builds stronger chemistry because it's rooted in equality, in the idea that both are invested in keeping the fire burning. That investment is what makes the bond unshakable. Trust, chemistry, and memory are not separate elements. They are intertwined, feeding into one another when routine is broken with purpose. Trust builds when newness is embraced. Chemistry ignites when trust is present, and memory forms when chemistry takes over. Each element amplifies the others, creating a cycle that makes intimacy not only satisfying but meaningful. Men crave these cycles because they know how rare they are, how much effort it takes to build them, and how valuable they become once created. It's not just about a new position, it's about the ripple effect that one act can create, shaping the relationship in ways that last far beyond the moment. The truth is, routine will always exist because life itself creates patterns, but within that routine, opportunities for adventure can still be found. It takes intention to break the rhythm, to insert something unexpected, and to let that shift breathe new life into the connection. When that intention is acted on, trust deepens because both partners feel safe in the adventure, chemistry strengthens because excitement replaces predictability, and memory is created because the experience stands apart from the rest. This is the hidden reason why men beg for new moves quietly, not for novelty's sake, but for the powerful impact those moments leave behind.